Welcome back to The Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. We take a whole stack of sources, articles, research, viewer comments, our own notes, and we really try to boil it down to the key insights.
Get right to the heart of it.
Exactly. And today, we are plunging into a film that, wow, it didn't just win Best Picture at the Oscars and capture audiences everywhere. It genuinely sparked this huge global conversation.
Oh, absolutely. It left so many people feeling something powerful, even if they couldn't quite, put their finger on exactly what it was.
Right. Like our listener, Camel Cicada over on Reddit, who summed it up perfectly. They said, look, it was a solid A10, totally enjoyed it, but they were struggling to get why so many people have it as their movie of the year. Felt like there was maybe a deeper layer, a metaphor they were missing.
And that's a really common feeling with Parasite. It's definitely a film that rewards a closer look. It invites you to dig beneath that surface narrative, peel back those layers.
So that's exactly our mission today. We've gathered your questions, a ton of critiques, director interviews, academic analyses, the works. And we're going to try and uncover those surprising details, those profound insights that maybe elevate Bong Joon-ho's Parasite from that solid 8-10 to, well, what many consider an undeniable 10-10 masterpiece.
A film that just keeps you talking.
Absolutely. We're exploring what you might have overlooked, the subtle stuff, the complex layers that make it so rich. So, yeah, get ready. We're unpacking Parasite.
Okay, so on the surface, right, the film seems pretty straightforward. It's a commentary on class, wealth versus poverty, the massive differences in quality of life. That part hits you immediately.
Yeah, you can't miss it. The Park mansion, all sleek and sunlit compared to the Kim's tiny, dark semi-basement apartment. The economic gap is just stark.
But where the film really gets interesting, and I think what moves it beyond just, rich people have it good, poor people have it bad, is how it dives into the really nuanced, almost like insidious dynamics of class struggle within capitalism.
It's so much more than just damn being poor sucks, isn't it?
Exactly. It's brilliant in how it shows the system, how capitalism often ends up pitting poor people against each other,
Right.
making them fight for scraps, basically.
Well, the rich folks are often just completely oblivious, floating above it all.
Utterly oblivious to the struggles happening literally beneath their feet or sometimes even inside their own homes. And that specific dynamic, I think, sets it apart from other films about class, which might just show a simple us versus them.
Right. And what's fascinating, and maybe easy to miss at first, is how the Parks, the wealthy family, they aren't really shown as like inherently evil people, are they?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Mr. Park, maybe he's seen as a bit of a shady businessman in some abstract sense, but as a family, they seem nice, kind even, a little naive maybe.
Definitely naive. Their negativity towards the poor, it feels less like actual malice and more just superficial. Like it comes from pure ignorance, being totally sealed off in their bubble.
They're not villains in that classic movie sense. They're just disconnected, radically disconnected.
And you see that ignorance pop up in these really memorable, subtle ways. Almost darkly funny sometimes. Like that bit where Mr. Park mentions the lights turning on by themselves.
Felt like magic. He genuinely thinks it's some fancy home automation.
But we know, and the Kims discover, it's actually Junsei, the former housekeeper's husband, down in that hidden bunker, flipping the switch for him.
Such a chilling detail. It's a perfect metaphor, isn't it? How privileged people just don't see the invisible labor, the hidden effort, the desperate lives sometimes that support their comfortable existence. They just enjoy the result, completely unaware.
It really is. It's about that whole unseen layer. But the film doesn't stop there, does it? It doesn't just critique the wealthy. It also shows, pretty painfully, how status divides people within the poorer classes too.
Oh, absolutely. That hierarchy among the poor is crucial. The moment the Kim family gets even a foothold, even those precarious jobs in the Park house, they immediately start seeing themselves as better than the former housekeeper and her husband.
They actively push them out.
Right.
To protect their own very fragile new status.
Exactly. And think about it. Even before they got those jobs, back in their own semi-basement, remember how they treated that homeless man who peed in their alley?
Ugh. Yeah, with total contempt,
Yeah.
dismissiveness. They were almost happy when Kiwoo chased him off with water.
It's uncomfortable, but it shows how that desire for status, even the tiniest bit, isn't just a rich people thing. It shows how easily people can turn on those they perceive as being even lower down the ladder. It's a kind of ingrained social stratification impulse.
It's a really complex look at human nature within that system.
And one thing that always comes up with Parasite is just how clear its message feels, despite the complexity. It's simple in a way, universal, but presented with such precision. Very few plot holes if you accept its slightly metaphorical style.
Yeah, people really connect with it. Some have even compared its impact maybe to a film like Get Out, where people across the political spectrum could watch it and kind of empathize with the societal issues it's raising.
Right, it touches something fundamental. And that clarity, that subtlety, I think, is what makes it more effective than, say, other class conflict films we've seen. Maybe like Joker, which some felt was a bit
Heavy-handed. Yeah, like it smacks you over the head with its themes. Parasite feels smarter, more nuanced.
Exactly. It avoids those broad, simplistic political statements just to score points. It doesn't preach. It just shows you the situation, the characters, their choices within that system, and lets you reflect.
Which is Bong Joon-ho's genius, really. He refuses to make anyone the outright villain. Not the Parks, not the Kims, not even the housekeeper and her husband in the bunker.
He works so hard to build empathy for everyone. You understand their motivations even when they do terrible things. It forces you to look past individual blame and see the bigger systemic picture.
That focus on empathy really makes you think again about the title, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Parasite.
It's provocative.
Totally. On one level, it seems obvious. The Kims are leeching off the Parks, right? Slowly taking over their lives, their resources. It culminates when Ki-taek, well, he kills his host, Mr. Park. It's pretty direct.
Very direct. And you see it reflected in how Mr. Park perceives Ki-taek, too. That whole thing with the smell.
The smell.
It's the marker of poverty, the semi-basement life. And Mr. Park notices it, but it's okay as long as Ki-taek doesn't cross the line. As long as the symptom isn't too obvious, too close.
It's like how you might ignore a minor symptom in your own body.
Right.
Until the parasite, the underlying issue, becomes a real danger.
Precisely. And the film weaves that biological metaphor throughout. Think about the flood scene.
Oh, God, yeah. Devastating. Their apartment filling with sewage.
It's such a visceral image, like the system or nature itself trying to violently flesh out the parasites, like how your body reacts to a bad stomach bug, vomiting, diarrhea. Like, it's a brutal expulsion.
And it's not just fleshing out parasites, it's flushing away their whole lives, their dignity, everything they own.
Everything. And even at the end, Kiwoo's pledge. He wants to break out of that parasitic role, earn money, buy the house, free his dad.
But it feels like such a pipe dream, doesn't it? The way it cuts back to him still in the basement.
Exactly. The ending leaves it ambiguous, reinforcing how hard that cycle is to escape. That struggle just continues.
But then, the film throws this curveball. Who is the real parasite? Is it just the Kims?
That's the debate, isn't it? Some argue the Parks are parasitic too, in their own way, preying on cheap labor, benefiting hugely from a system that keeps others down. There's that broader critique you hear it sometimes that maybe all rich people are parasites to some extent. Their wealth feeding off the system.
That's a tough one. Because the counter-argument is strong too. The Parks did give them jobs.
Right. They provided a livelihood, however precarious. No one physically forced the Kims to work there. They sought it out. It gave them income, shelter. Well, indirectly shelter.
So maybe it's more complex than just one side being the parasite, more symbiotic, maybe, at least initially.
It raises questions about agency, responsibility, and then there's that even more challenging idea the film floats.
That maybe we're all parasites.
In a way. Especially thinking about Korean collectivist culture, the idea that everyone needs everyone else. But the film seems to suggest that basic needs plus that me-first greed turns us all into parasites on society, taking what we can, ignoring the humanity of those above and below us.
That's a really unsettling thought. Like, the Kims exploit the Parks, sure, but the Parks exploit the Kims for cheap labor. Even the housekeeper and her husband are secretly living off the Parks. Everyone's implicated.
But then you have to think about the biological definition of a parasite.
Right, an organism living off a host, deriving nutrients at the host's expense, often causing harm, disease.
Think malaria, tapeworms. They're inherently destructive. Horrific, really.
So using that strict definition, does calling the Kings, or even everyone parasites kind of, let the wealthy off the hook? Does it denigrate the poor for simply trying to survive?
It forces you to question the title's implications. Is it equating survival strategies with something inherently negative? It's not just a catchy title. It fundamentally shapes how you interpret everything.
And Bong Joon-ho does this a lot, doesn't he? Using these biological or systemic metaphors in his titles.
Absolutely. The host, Snowpiercer, He uses these concepts to explore thematic elements, critique society. His meticulous direction, the visuals, the symbolism, it all works together to make these really potent critiques of class, inequality, but always within a gripping story. He picks these words very deliberately.
And the visual language in Parasite is just incredible. Every detail seems loaded with meaning. The architecture alone tells such a story.
Totally. Let's start with the homes. The Kims live in that semi-basement, the Banjiha. Half underground, half overground.
Barely peaking above street level. Dim, cramped.
It perfectly symbolizes their social status, right? Marginalized, just on the edge with only a limited view of the world. It's a literal representation of their place.
And that scene with the fumigation. The free fumigation.
Oh, yeah. They just sit there letting the toxic gas fill their home to save a few won.
It's darkly funny, but horrifying. It shows the compromises of poverty, doesn't it? Breathing poison to save money, the noxious environment of their lives, made literal.
And then you contrast that with the Parks place. Huge, modern, flooded with sunlight.
The visual gap is immense. It's not just money, it's light versus shadow. Their home reflects their comfort, their obliviousness maybe, while the Kims live in darkness.
That light-dark contrast is woven throughout, framing the moral choices too.
And then the bunker. The hidden bunker.
The big reveal. It's more than just a hidden room, isn't it? It's like the secret underbelly of the elite world. The hidden costs, the dark secrets needed to maintain that polished surface.
Both literal and figurative darkness. And it becomes this battleground where the different classes literally clash violently.
Even tiny details, like the toilet in the Kim's place.
Right. It's the highest point in their apartment on that raised platform.
Which suggests, horribly, that they're living below the level of sewage. Below poop, essentially. It's such a crude but effective visual for their social standing, stripping away dignity.
And the stairs. So many stairs in this film.
Constant up and down. A clear visual metaphor for social climbing or falling.
That walk home during the rainstorm is the most powerful example. Down, down, down all those steps. From the manicured lawns to the flooded streets.
Literally descending physically and socially while the parks are safe and dry up high. It's just brutal visual storytelling about the lack of upward mobility.
Beyond the spaces, specific objects become so symbolic. Like the Scholar's Stone.
Ah, yes. The stone Min supposedly brings material wealth, good fortune.
It starts as this symbol of hope, right? Their aspiration for a better future, for upward mobility.
But it's heavy. It signifies the burden of those aspirations, the pressure.
And then it turns out to be hollow.
Exactly. Symbolizing the futility, the emptiness of their pursuit of wealth through deception. And then
It becomes a weapon. Used in the violence. Hope turning into destruction.
Kiwoo literally gets smacked in the head with the metaphor. It's brilliant how its meaning shifts.
And the smell. We talked about it, but it's such a recurring, powerful motif.
The inescapable mark of poverty. That faint scent that follows the Kims.
And Mr. Park's reaction to it, especially his disgust at the party, that's the final straw for K-Tick, isn't it?
It's the ultimate dehumanization. He can't take the disrespect anymore. It proves their poverty isn't just where they live, it's on them, part of them, wherever they go. An invisible brand.
The rain and the flood, too. Such a potent symbol.
It hits both rich and poor, but so differently. For the Parks, it's a blessing. Cleans the air for their garden party. Nice backdrop.
For the Kims, it's a catastrophe.
Yeah.
A curse. Wipes out their home.
It perfectly shows the unequal impact of the same event. Minor inconvenience versus total devastation purely based on class.
And lastly, those blinking lights again. Mr. Park thinking they turn on by magic.
When it's Jensei downstairs, it's not just a plot point. It suggests, really disturbingly, that no matter how low you are, there might be someone even lower.
Flickering a light, influencing your life in ways you don't even realize.
That idea that maybe we are all the Parks to someone, benefiting from unseen labor, unaware of the lives supporting ours, it's a really profound, unsettling thought.
There's just so much packed in there, which is why it invites so much discussion. But it also got some criticism, didn't it? People finding bits illogical.
Yeah, if you approach it purely literally, like, why are these smart Kim kids folding pizza boxes? Or how did the Parks never find that bunker?
Right. Or how did the guy in the bunker survive unseen? Isn't the Morse code a bit convenient? Why didn't the Parks check references?
And the big one, how did the Kims clean up that huge mess after the party so quickly before the Parks got back? Valid questions if you expect pure realism.
But that's kind of missing the point, isn't it? Like that commentator said, the stuff you're describing is illogical. Is the film working as metaphor? It's a parable.
Exactly. A deep reading isn't even required to get that. The illogical bits are deliberate choices. They serve the larger metaphorical message about class, invisibility, hidden structures. If the Parks found the bunker easily, the metaphor collapses.
It's not about plot holes, it's about symbolic storytelling. Some viewers even tried to argue the Kims were just lazy,
Oh, that argument. They're poor because they're lazy. Their house is messy because they're lazy. They could just get jobs.
which completely ignores what the film shows us. Ki-woo speaks English. Ki-jung is a genius manipulator and artist. Ki-taek is super efficient folding those boxes.
They've clearly worked tons of odd jobs. They're trying. The film's point is that effort alone isn't enough in this system. Meritocracy, it suggests, is kind of a myth within capitalism as it functions here.
So calling them lazy is just projecting your own politics onto it, really, not engaging with the film's actual critique.
Yeah. And another point people found illogical was Mr. Kim killing Mr. Park. Why would he abandon his dying daughter?
But the film builds to that breaking point so carefully. It's the smell comment again, the disgust on Mr. Park's face when he reacts to the basement man's smell.
Which is Ki-taek's smell, too, essentially. And then Mr. Park telling him to ignore his daughter, just drive. Stop playing around.
That absolute callousness, that dismissal of his daughter's life, layered onto all the previous microaggressions about the smell, the line.
Yeah.
It just snaps something in him.
It's an explosion of accumulated humiliation, hypocrisy, and the sheer inequality of it all. It's understandable emotionally, even if not strictly logical in that moment.
And again, Bong doesn't judge him. He shows why it happens. He criticizes the system without making any single character purely culpable. He wants you to feel for everyone.
And understanding the specific South Korean context makes the film even richer. Those concepts like dirt spoon, gold spoon, helljoseon.
Right, dirt spoon, born poor, almost no chance of moving up no matter how hard you work. Gold spoon, born rich, everything handed to you. And helljoseon, that younger generation's term for Korea as this hopeless, hyper-competitive place.
These aren't just abstract ideas. They reflect deep societal anxieties. You have the post-war poverty, then the rapid growth, then the 1997 financial crisis hitting hard.
And the millennials inheriting this unstable environment, facing intense competition, feeling like the system is rigged against them.
That survey showing 73% of South Korean millennials felt wealth distribution was unfair. That's huge. They feel like they aren't rewarded for their efforts.
And the film reflects those structural issues too, like the Gangnam versus Gangbuk divide, rich south of the river, poorer north. Where you grow up massively impacts your chances because opportunities are concentrated.
The Kim's basement and the Park's mansion are literal symbols of that geographic and social divide. Inequality is baked into the structure.
So the film taps into very real anxieties about the cost of living, job insecurity, the difficulty of climbing that social ladder. The Kim's desperate measures reflect that intense pressure.
And that ending. Ki-woo's dream. Planning to earn enough to buy the house, save his dad.
Narrated so hopefully in the letter.
And then, bam! Cut back to reality. He's still in the exact same semi-basement.
It's heartbreaking, such a stark depiction of that cycle of poverty, how hard it is to escape, suggesting that kind of upward mobility is mostly just a fantasy.
It's a really sobering final note on the barriers that exist.
It's also fascinating to place Parasite in film history. Bong has talked about the influence of Kim Ka-young's 1960 film, The Housemaid.
Yes, both films deal with class conflict, lower-class individuals infiltrating wealthy households. It shows an evolution of how these themes are portrayed in Korean cinema, but the core anxieties persist. The Housemaid also used that domestic space to expose upper-class hypocrisy.
And Parasite is just a masterclass in mixing genres, isn't it?
Oh, totally. That genre hybridity, it slides so smoothly between dark comedy, tense thriller, heartbreaking drama.
You're laughing, then you're on the edge of your seat, then you're devastated.
That constant shifting keeps you off balance, makes the punches land harder. It's technically brilliant.
So ultimately, while it's a sharp critique of modern Korea, its power comes from how universally those themes of inequality, exploitation resonate.
Absolutely. Bong's direction, the layered story. It makes you think about society, human nature, power dynamics everywhere. It's not just entertainment, it's provocation.
Which is why we're still talking about it, why there's so much to talk about. It captures something essential about the world today, the divisions and anxieties felt globally.
It really does reflect the zeitgeist, the Gestalt, as the outline said.
So we've journeyed pretty deep today, through the nuances of class, the biological metaphors, the visual symbols, the debates about logic versus parable, all grounded in that specific Korean context, but speaking to everyone.
Yeah, the film holds up that mirror, doesn't it? Reflecting society, human nature, forcing us to look at some uncomfortable stuff.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. If Parasite is right, if we are all connected in this complex web of dependency, maybe even unintentional parasitism, what does that mean for our own responsibility within these big systems?
And maybe, how does recognizing our own smells, our own blind spots, our own privileges or dependencies, how might that be the first step towards changing the plan, not just for ourselves, but for everyone, towards something more equitable?
Definitely something to chew on long after the credits roll.
For sure.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Parasite. We hope it's given you even more to unpack the next time you watch this incredible, complex film.